Hello and welcome to this episode of T-Tech. This is part 3 of 3 in our OpenBSD Carp series, and in this part we're going to verify that Carp and PFSYNC are working correctly. So I do hope you enjoy this one, and let's get into it. Hello and welcome to this episode of T-Tech. This is part 3 of 3 of our OpenBSD Carp series, and in this part we're finally going to verify that all the configurations for Carp and PFSYNC are working. So we have a client here, the OpenBSD, the OBSD CL window here. That's our client, and that client is connected to the LAN side of both of R1 and R2. So the first thing we're going to do is ping that virtual IP address, that 192.168.1.1. We'll start a ping there, and now that it's running, on the left here, I'm going to open up the eMaster router. And at this point, I'm going to say if config em0 down. What this will do is bring down the LAN interface. And that also means because Carp is using the LAN interface, that the hello packets will stop being sent, and that R2 will take over the master role. Now we will drop some pings, and you'll see in a second. So if I hit enter and quick go back over, the sequence number is going to skip. There we go, it skipped a little bit. And we're still getting replies. But now we're getting replies from R2. If we do ifconfig carp to see the carp group interfaces, the state of both of those is master. So that does mean that he took over. But what if we switch over again and bring em0 up, the sequence number will skip again slightly sometimes. And now we're actually over to this one again. R2 is the backup again because he heard the better advertised SKU from R1's packets. So that's to show that the virtual IP is virtual. It floats between the two, and only the one that's in the master state replies to traffic. So this would be the case if it was applied to a server, where you'd have a server like an email server, a web server, and you'd have that IP set up on there. It would float between the two. You could still access the server. But that's why it's a virtual IP. It floats between the two of them. Now we're going to get into the firewall and routing part of the Carp. If we do a ping to Google, this ping is going to be routed through the routers. So our ping has commenced. Again, watch that sequence number. I'll have to pop back over there real quick. But we're going to first, because if we do ifconfig carp here, the R1 is still master, but if we do ifconfig em0 down, as before, we're going to see a few misses here. The sequence number will skip, but now it's going through R2, because they were backup just a minute ago there, but now they're master. And that ping is just going along just fine. But if we go back over here, we'll keep the ping running. But we can bring back up, to verify real quick, to get the point, ifconfig, this is in backup. So if we do ifconfig em0 up, the IP will be taken back over by R1, the virtual IP. And now that traffic is going through R1, and R2 is in the backup state again. Now, one more thing with the ping before we move on to a state protocol that has to keep state, is if the ping is here and we decide to take down em2, which is our WAN, or the link fails. This is also why I would have the WAN failover, because we could also have R2 connected to another WAN connection, but again, that's a topic for another discussion. So with that, now that we went down there, if we do ifconfig carp, the LAN is in the backup state. It knew something went wrong with the WAN side, so it said, okay, I'll relinquish the other side as well, so R2 can take over all the roles. But as you see, we haven't stopped having connectivity through there, because now this one is master on both, and it works on the LAN or the WAN. That's why we have to run it on both. But now what we'll do is we'll bring the R1 up again, and in a second here, and he's master again. All right, and we'll do two more things that use TCP. So TCP is the transmission control protocol at layer 4, and it does have to have state, and this packets that comprise a TCP session have to be in the right order. So what we'll do is we'll do an iperf command to test our speed. We need to do I for the interval between the updates. We'll just do 2 seconds. We want to download, so we have to use R. C for the client, and it's iperf.he.net. And we'll start the download. And there is the download, and it is going. It'll be a little bit slow, but whoop. I actually forgot one thing on that command. We want to use a timeout of 5 minutes. Okay. So it's going. And if it's all going through R1, but if we do ifconfig em0 down, this is why PFSYNC is important, because it will hesitate. And there we go, it hesitated, but look, it's still going. Why is it still going? Because the state in PF was synchronized with PFSYNC between the two firewalls. And that is the beauty of all of this. So we can also switch back over, because if I do em0 up and bring the LAN side of R1 back up, it will still have the hesitation when it's switching over at some point. And there we go. And if we look at the Carp status, we're the master again over here, and it's still flowing. And finally, if we bring down EM2, if our WAN breaks, it will have a small divot, and then it will go ahead and send. All because of PFSYNC. It is an incredible protocol. PFSYNC and Carp are amazing. So from there, the last thing we'll do is do a test through an SSH session. I'm going to quick pause the video while I log into the box, and I will be back in 1 second. Alright, we're back, and I'm logged back into our machine here. Now, all I've done here, it's a Linux box, and I've ran the free -m command to show RAM usage every second. Now, right now, it's still going through R1. And this is sensitive traffic. It's management traffic over the internet. So we do have to make sure we don't have packet loss, or we could break things on the machine if we're running important commands and then the connection drops. So watch that timer there in the middle. It's still going up. We're on R1, and we're going to bring down the LAN side. And before we do that, let's verify that Carp is the master here, and it is. If we bring down the LAN side, here we go. See a little bit of hesitation, and you might, have a heart attack, but it still is working. It will be a little bit, you'll miss a little bit of a heartbeat, but you won't have to reconnect existing connections. From there, if we want to verify that this one is now the backup, we'll do ifconfig carp. This one is the backup. And if we go to R2, this one is the master. We got to bring the other one up here. Kind of got lost. Okay. And as you see, it is still going and counting. So the packets that are represent that are still going through that connection. Now, if we go, let's see, if we go bring up the LAN side again, it will still work and will come up as the Carp interface. And we're a master, and both the timer is still counting from that command output. And again, that's a connection on an SSH server on the internet that is going through both of these machines. So it is being maintained because of the Carp and PFSYNC, syncing the TCP connection information. Now the last thing we'll do is bring down the WAN EM2 down as before. Do an ifconfig, and now we're in backup mode. It is still counting. We do have hesitation because as they are doing the ARP requests and replies, to have the R2 take over the VIP, it does take a little bit to reconverge. But now we're master mode here, and again, the command has not stopped. So we are all good with this configuration. And again, to bring that back up, just EM2 up. And in a second, be back to master mode, and there he is. So that concludes our OpenBSD Carp series. And you know, in this part, we went ahead, we got a client, connected it to the same network as our R1 and R2 firewalls. We set up Carp and PFSYNC on the firewalls, and because of that, we're able to have the failover of the VIP to each machine, and have the connection redundancy with TCP, UDP, and ICMP through the use of PFSYNC, being able to synchronize the PF state table. So again, this was on OpenBSD, and it was with Carp and PFSYNC. So this was part 3 of 3, and I really hope you enjoyed this series. I really had an awesome, amazing time making it for you, and I really hope you got something very useful from it. So with all of that, I'm Tyler with T-Tech. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and have a nice day.